But you mentioned REM sleep, and my roommate founded a health startup. It went through Y Combinator. The startup didn't work, but he said that it's notoriously difficult to get sleep data. And when it comes to my Oura Ring and my Whoop, the REM versus deep sleep data is very different. What's going on there, and why is it so hard to capture sleep cycle data?
Well, it's interesting. First of all, capturing sleep data in that of itself is a fascinating concept because if you go to a sleep laboratory and you get hooked up to all these different contraptions, most commonly known the polysomnograph, which is really the sort of gold standard in sleep measurement. Um, what happens is they film you sleeping, they look at the polysomnograph data, and and then two sleep clinicians will actually grade your sleep data. And people don't realize this, but those two sleep clinicians will actually agree with each other 67% of the time. So, like, that actually seems kind of low if you
Mm-hmm.
think about it, right? Like, in terms of being able to accurately grade sleep data. And we've gone to great lengths to be the most accurate sleep monitor on the market. And if you look at our data alongside that gold standard, it's really, really accurate. And we look at it by variations of, um, if a polysomnograph said you were in deep sleep for 48 minutes, how long did Whoop say you were in deep sleep? Okay, that's plus or minus 2 minutes. Okay, that's pretty encouraging. And what's fascinating about REM sleep and slow wave sleep in particular, and why it's important to measure these two periods of sleep, is that REM sleep is when your brain is repairing. It's when you're improving cognitive performance. And if you're an executive, if you're trying to perform at a high level mentally, you need to be getting a lot of REM sleep. And slow wave sleep is when your body produces about 95% of its human growth hormone.
Hmm.
So people think you get stronger in the gym. You're actually kind of like tearing your muscles down in the gym. You get stronger during slow wave sleep when you're repairing them. And I bring this up because someone listening to this who doesn't measure sleep, if you ask them how much sleep they get, what they will invariably do is they'll say, well, okay, in the back of their mind, they'll go, well, I go to bed at 11 and I wake up at 6. So I get 7 hours of sleep every night. And it's like, okay, well, actually, if you were to measure that, that's 7 hours in bed.
Right.
7 hours in bed does not actually translate to 7 hours in sleep. Maybe you spend 7 hours in bed, and if you're pretty efficient, you're getting 6 hours and 15 minutes of sleep, of quality sleep. Now, within quality of sleep, there's still this notion of light sleep versus REM and slow wave sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, there's people who get 6 hours and 15 minutes of sleep, and 5.5 hours of that is light sleep, right? Versus you could be getting 6 hours and 15 minutes of sleep, and half of it is REM and slow wave sleep. And so when people say, I think I'm a pretty good sleeper, I don't know that I need to measure this stuff, or I know I'm a bad sleeper, I don't need to measure this stuff. I think it's the most short-sighted point of view because it's a third of your life, and you can actually change very small things. And all of a sudden, you're spending the same amount of time in bed. You're still the guy who goes to bed at 11 and wakes up at 6. But you now are going from having 10% of that time in bed being REM and slow wave, which is when you get all the value, to having 50 or 60%. And that alone can so meaningfully change the quality of your life and your performance. It is shocking.